Welcome to Creating Mind-Body Bootcamps. The purpose of this program is to give you some ideas for the group fitness instructor who has mind-body experience in perhaps one or more mind-body applications of group fitness environments, yoga, tai chi, Pilates, Feldenkrais, gyrokinesis, Nia, Qigong, one or more of those. Ideas of how similarly we can construct our experiences of mind-body to be really similar to the very popular trend of group fitness boot camps. Now, to get into that purpose, I think it's important that we start with some similarities of boot camp and a mind-body boot camp, and then we'll talk about what truly makes some differences. So to start with, group fitness experiences in boot camp, generally we have warm-up that's very specific, aggressive, fast, and instructors tend not to coordinate or choreograph an experience of boot camp where all the students follow along specifically with the instructor. That said, an instructor may say something like, we're going to do a set of burpees. Here's how to make it easier, here's how to make it harder, let's go team, and maybe blow a whistle or scream go or walk amongst the people. But not calling out exactly how many every person should do, because unlike some group fitness experiences, the boot camp experience is not always choreographed or timed to the music. And if we're outside, we may not even have music. Similarly, the mind-body boot camp doesn't have to say, we're going to do a Pilates 100, for example, in exactly this amount of time. But maybe, let's try now the Pilates 100. Here's a way to make it easier. Here's a way to make it harder. Please begin at your own pace and time. That way it's just as aggressive, and the instructor may walk around, but it's not everyone on the beat or on the phrase, for example. Some advantages occur, like have everyone feel very successful because I don't have to compete with the person next to me, and in Mind-Body, we want to discourage overall competition. Another advantage is that because the instructor is walking around, he or she can coach and counsel each individual to maximize inner potential in a mindful experience. While it still is, nevertheless, mind-body, it is simultaneously boot camp-like in terms of intensity. Putting it all together, in traditional boot camp, one exercise seamlessly flows into the next exercise. The warm-up is aggressive in the sense that it is still specific, but it is not a lot of fluff. It's not the traditional inhale and exhale and let's prepare the way we may have in the last century, for example, to get everyone sort of in that group fitness traditional experience preparation mode. We're just going to start with our squats and lunges, granted less intense as we work on a slow, gradual increase. What else characterizes a mind-body boot camp? I say if you teach Hatha Yoga, you know that some poses or asana or asan are more aggressive or difficult than others. Whether that difficulty comes from strength or flexibility, some may be easier. For example, while mountain pose with legs apart or legs together could be challenging for some, overall, compared to almost any other standing pose, it comparatively is a regression, not so challenging. The Mind-Body Bootcamp will emphasize less mountain pose as a preparatory warm-up, for example, and put more time into the building up to and the breaking down of each movements. In other words, mountain pose in a Mind-Body Bootcamp could be more of a transition pose than a preparatory build-up at the beginning. In a traditional Hatha Yoga, we might be on the floor, or if we're standing, we may start in mountain pose, but in the Mind-Body Bootcamp, we may actually start in a chair pose, starting in a movement that we're going to be doing later, because we want to maximize time and we want to maximize benefits. In other words, think of the yoga, tai chi, or Pilates more difficult movements, unlike the standing mountain that I just mentioned, for example, and that becomes to lesser ranges of motion or lesser degrees of repetition or lesser speeds, your warm-up. And then you're putting together the mind-body sessions of the class. In other words, a mind-body bootcamp, simply said, trims the fluff off of an extended warm-up, more relaxing postures like seated Sukhasana or seated potted palm tree pose, or the relaxation little piece of heaven that we may have in Pilates, or the reach up and fall down with the arms of a flying bird in Tai Chi, and more of the challenging progressions of yoga, Pilates, and Tai Chi respectively. It doesn't mean we're starting with the most intense progression of any of those exercises or movement patterns, or animals, if you will, but it does mean that we're taking the most difficult aspects of mind-body disciplines and putting them into the Mind-Body Bootcamp. It's still introspective. It is still reflective, but it is not slow, and it is not for the people who have never taken a mind-body discipline before, in the sense that they are fit. Granted, some men who may not have an open mind to mind-body, some women who may not have an open mind to mind-body may think, well, I don't normally take that yoga class, but because this is called aggressive mind-body, or because this is called a mind-body boot camp, and because I love traditional boot camp, I may give this mind-body discipline a try. And that's overall the purpose. The macro purpose of this program is to let people who otherwise would not think of taking a mind-body program experiencing this. Simultaneously, another purpose is to take the people who like the more progressive moves of yoga, tai chi, Pilates, and Feldenkrais, for example, and then bring those into that connected group fitness mind-body discipline experience, so that they get, sort of in their perspective, more benefits in less time. So that's sort of our purpose of putting together the Mind-Body Bootcamp, and how it's similar to, yet different from, a traditional boot camp. In a traditional boot camp, we may blow a whistle. In this, we may just say, now we move into the next discipline. Maybe if we have a gong or a chime, when we ring the chime or blow on the gong, we signal that it's time to move into the next discipline. Still mindful, still very new age in terms of musicality, but no fluff or relaxing time, nor corpse pose between postures or progressions, nor standing mountain pose to repose or cover for long periods of time. It could be a short transition, but we're putting it together in terms of linking. Now, for mindfulness in the mind-body approach, I like to follow what I call the BAM technology, or the BAM philosophy. B stands for breathing, the A stands for activation, and the M stands for methodology. When I remember the BAM technological approach to creating the Mind-Body Bootcamp, I just sort of think how I'm going to put together the flow of movements. For example, I'll invite people how to breathe in a specific discipline. Bearing in mind, I always give the caveat, if that works for you. For example, if you come to me in a yoga class and you have a cold or a deviated septum, or for some reason you can't breathe through one nostril, and I invite you for the whole experience, or just in the sections of yoga, make sure your lips are closed and you're only breathing through the nose, from the get-go, I'm making some people feel unsuccessful. So I just give a suggestion. I may say, the next section of movement is from yoga, so I invite you to close your lips and harness that power of Ujjayi breathing. And if you don't know what Ujjayi breathing is, or you choose not to breathe through your nose, just open your mouth and breathe, and that's okay, team, so that everybody feels successful. I also encourage using words like team and gang and my friends in the Mind-Body Bootcamp, because I'm incorporating that philosophy that we're a we in terms of the group pronoun of first person plural, not I, not you, but we, together as this team in our Mind-Body Bootcamp, but encouraging non-competition, as we would in a traditional bootcamp. So then we can actually have breathing be part of the experience, but only as a suggestion, not as something mandatory. That's the B. The A is the activation. Maybe say we're really going to get into the legs here, or the front of the lower legs, the anterior tibialis, or we're going to get into the core here. We're going to work now on rectus abdominis in this supine or on our back position from Pilates. So you might inhale through the nose and exhale through pursed lips. I've addressed the B, or breathing, and then addressed the A, or activation. So people know what to expect and where to expect it. So then they know coming up immediately the mindful approach to what's coming up. When people know what to expect, then they know where they're supposed to feel it, and you're helping people find progressions and regressions really quickly. And then there's the methodology. And the M, to me, stands for the S of stability and the M of mobility. To get into any program or movement pattern of our Mind-Body Bootcamp, I like to have people sort of get into a position, and there are sort of 10 positions we talk about in building mindful bootcamps, and then add the movement, if there is any, for the pose or the movement pattern. For example, if we're going to do a Pilates 100, we're on our back and get into position with an imprinted spine, knees up, in a flexed position, in a regression or a progression as appropriate for everyone. Hold that stability with active pelvic floor engagement, navel to spine, for example, and then move into the M of the mobility of the program. So B-A-M, the breathing, activation, where we're going to be working out, where we invite people to feel it, and then the methodology. Here's where to stabilize, and if appropriate, here's where to mobilize, and then we move on to the next pattern. Generally, we don't say we're going to hold this for 3 minutes or 1 minute in yoga. Or in Pilates, we don't say we're going to do this 25 times, because what may be appropriate for Mary may not be appropriate for Matt. Meanwhile, some people want to make it easier and some people want to make it harder. So then I say we're going to do this for a while, and then we give the progressions and regressions of the Pilates 100, for example. In Tai Chi, generally we're standing, if you're familiar with Tai Chi, and we can use that as sort of a repose. We can use it as a transition, but there are ways to make Tai Chi and Qigong very traditionally challenging. It doesn't mean to sort of untraditionally caffeinate it, but some of the original Qigong and Tai Chi movements in and of themselves, when done in the originally meant speed and tempo and range of motion and lever length, are very challenging and appropriate for mind-body bootcamp techniques. So the mindfulness we create when we remember the BAM technology, or the sort of methodology, B for breathing, A for activation, and then sort of the M for the methodology, S before M, stability before the M, and mobility.